Hey everyone, welcome to D's Universe. I felt making another video which is about repurposing something. So in this case, I have the remote for the nvidia Shield TV. It's an old device, but I keep it around for my parents. Whenever they come by, every once in a while, they can watch TV or their favorite programs. So this thing here, the only downside with it is the battery, or the batteries actually. Inside it, we have these two batteries and they get drained very easily. I have to change them so often. I don't feel like doing that anymore. So my idea was to repurpose this thing here, which is actually a remnant of an old DVD remote. I cut it off, got rid of anything I did not need. What I kept around is the container for the batteries and basically the terminals here. This whole bit here, it won't do anything anymore. So the idea is that I connect these terminals to the ones inside. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make some sketches about what I had in mind to hook these things together and create it in cut, and then have an STL file, send it off to the 3D printers, and then wait for my 3D print and then hook everything together. So stay tuned. All right, so forgive my Mickey Mouse made setup for a bit, but I told you that I was gonna draw out what I had as an idea, and let's focus on that for a bit. So let's start off with the remote control itself. So we have this thing here with a microphone, buttons, and a volume rail, like so. And normally when we have the battery tray within it, it's flush, but you can remove it. So I'll draw it out like that. Now, this tray, which is currently in it, shall no longer be used. Instead, I'm gonna print a new tray. And that new tray, looking from the top of it, at least you should see a couple of terminals there, which are actually made of a couple of metal strips. So these conductive strips, the idea is that from the underside of the tray, this tray at least, they run along its entire length. Why? Because on the back side, well, at least near the bottom side, will be the battery bay. Couple of double A's in it, and in my case I'd like to use rechargeos. Usually they're about shall we say 1.2 volts. So 1.2 volt, could use the normal 1.5s also. And since they're in series, the idea is that they will total about 2.4 up to 3 volts or something like that, within that range. Now, within the remote, we have the terminals, which are in shape of springs. I'll come back to that later because that's actually quite handy. Now, the idea is that this terminal here will be connected to that one there, this one there, and from, yeah, let's say the lower end of the tray, or the back side of the tray, the conductivity is then continued like so. So if we have a side profile, so let's say we have a battery here and we have a tray here for the connectivity, for the connection rather. Let's say this is my remote. Yeah, so remote, this here is a tray, this here is battery. Yeah. And this will go to the other battery aside of it. So to keep this bit like that altogether, I decide to put everything in a casing, which will basically clamp the whole thing together, the whole gestalt. So the springs will come in handy for that because they tend to push out the tray. And my idea is that I can, when I need to remove the remote so that I can reach the batteries, the idea is that I can push the tray from this side and then unlock it from its position. And then I can remove the battery, the remote, so that I can gain access to the batteries. That's basically the idea. And when I have the 3D printed parts in my possession, I will resume. So yeah, let me make sure that everything is lined up a little bit. And the way that it feels is I should be holding it like this. I wanted to glue them together, but I'll do that shortly. So yeah, this is the idea. So it's easy to reach from this and there. And I will be holding it like this. It looks uncomfortable, but it actually isn't. The capacitive rail here for the volume up and down, I can still easily reach it. The buttons are all in place. And yeah, I'm gonna glue this together so it won't fall out. And this will also be glued in place instead of making a bay for it, which would take up more material and take up more time, etc. So yeah, I think these cavities helped a lot with reducing production time. And it's still sturdy enough, strong enough, so yeah. I think I did a good job on that one. All right, so a quick update. I ran into some foam strips that I had left over from my induction stove that I installed, and I thought maybe they might help keeping the remote securely in this case, and they do. But then I also ran into something I hadn't thought of initially, and I marked it down here. That should be an opening, a window, so that the signal can go from the remote to the Android box easily. I should open that up with a solder iron. All right, so back again and printed the tray. And you can already see I placed in one of these metal bits from a page binder. So the second one is still around somewhere. I need to find it, but they will be used to act as terminals to make the connection between the battery bay and the inside of the remote. So this was the original tray. You can already see the terminals here, and you can also see the spots for the cells. Now, this is arranged in parallel. So one of them is 3 volts, so the total voltage stays 3 volts. Now, with this battery bay, where the batteries are arranged in series, depending on the batteries you use, you can use the 1.5 or the rechargeable 1.2s, or varies, let's say about 2.4 to 3. So that's all within range. Now, I made minor adjustments, as in these ends, they were just, arranged differently. So I took some pliers and I bent them into this shape. So what will happen then, if I get this in place here, it's a bit difficult to do on camera, of course, but there we go. So let me turn this into place again. They do not contact each other, that's all good. But you can see that, they will slot in here. And that's the idea. I think I might be in for a surprise later on, and I'll tell you a bit about it. So this thing here was straight, and I made this indentation later on by Dremel. Why? Because it didn't go in all the way as I expected it. So I took a closer look into the original one, and it has an opening here and this bit in the middle. And now this bit in the middle, what it does, it separates a metal prong inside of the remote. So now I'm thinking like, okay, is that prong there just to keep this thing centered? Because this thing has its own rails, it should be centered enough. Or is it there because that metal prong needs to be separated to disconnect some electric flow? I don't know exactly. So if that's the case, then I might be in for a problem that I need to fix, but that's going to be something that I'll find out later on. All right, so as mentioned previously, I needed to find a second one of these metal strips. to conduct the flow from the battery bay to the inside of the remote. Now, I found something, but it's not quite the same, as in this one has a slightly different color, which is actually a coating, and that coating prevents conductivity. So what I did, I grabbed a piece of sanding paper and I sanded this bit bare, but I need to open up another place so that the flow can go in from here and then come out the other side without any obstruction. And that's what I'm going to do right now. So I did have to do some tinkering. Now, I made this part, the added separator, from one of these bag clamps, shutters, whatever you like, to mimic the separator on the original tray. Now this one, what it does, the separator, inside of the remote, there's this metal prong and it splits it open to actually break open a short circuit. Each one of those sides from the prong is attached to a terminal. So if I were to plug this in with the batteries attached to it, it would short circuit it. So that circuit has to be broken open so the electric flow can flow normally. All right, people, I am finished. So what I did as some final steps, I glued this battery bay into its position and I kept it a bit forward. Why? Because this way I can still remove the batteries with ease. I also switched the terminals because this terminal should be the plus end of the battery while this should be the negative end. So they were the other way around. The springy side was on that side and the same story here. So I switched them around. This battery bay allowed it to do so. So I'm glad with that. I also bent these terminals in such a shape that they make a connection to the rails of this thing. But they can also be, sprung down a bit along with the tray when I position the remote into it. So how to use it? You just place the batteries like so, and just to prove my point, I can easily remove it again. I got ample room for it. So let's place the other one inside of it as well, and of course the connection tray. So this thing will break open the metal prongs that are inside this. Yeah, you cannot see them, but they are inside it, and they will then make sure that there's a normal flow. And then you just place the remote into it while pushing this inward and pushing it down at the same time. And if I were to press it down a bit, yes, now it's secured into place, and inside the terminals do make the connection. It's ready for use. That's basically it. So yeah, this is not a beautiful thing. It is more functional than it is beautiful. Its beauty lies in the fact that it works. I tested it. It's great. No more buying batteries.